This is how a single photograph destroyed a 4-year marriage in less than 48 hours. I'm Emma, your storyteller here at Mrs. Emma, and today I'm sharing a confession that will make you question everything about boundaries, friendship, and the fine line between independence and betrayal. What you're about to hear is the raw, unfiltered truth from a woman who thought she was standing up for herself, only to realize she'd been tearing down her marriage all along. So before we dive in, if you appreciate real stories about real mistakes and hard lessons, make sure you hit that like button. And stick around until the end, because this story takes turns you won't see coming. Her name was Paisley, 29 years old, married for 4 years to a man named Zachary. And by her own account, life was pretty ordinary. Not perfect, but comfortable. They had a modest home they were renovating together, steady jobs that paid the bills, and what seemed like a solid foundation. Zachary worked in project management, traveling occasionally for work. Paisley had an office job, nothing glamorous, but it provided stability. They weren't wealthy, but they had enough. More importantly, she believed they had trust. Until one person became the wedge that would split everything apart. His name was Austin. Now, Austin wasn't just any friend. He and Paisley had known each other since their sophomore year of college. They'd been part of the same tight-knit circle for nearly a decade. But here's the detail Paisley conveniently left out when she married Zachary. She and Austin had dated. Briefly, yes. Just a few weeks of casual dating that fizzled out naturally. But it happened. And Zachary had no idea. Paisley justified this omission easily. It wasn't serious, she told herself. It would only create unnecessary drama. Why bring up ancient history that meant nothing? But that ancient history was about to become very, very relevant. Every summer, Paisley's college friend group had a tradition. Myrtle Beach. 3 days of sunshine, drinks, and nostalgia. They'd been doing it for years, even as life got complicated with marriages, careers, and responsibilities. For Paisley, this annual trip was sacred. It represented freedom, youth, and connection to the people who knew her before she became a wife, before she had a mortgage, before adult life consumed everything. This year, however, Zachary had concerns. For months leading up to the trip, he'd been making comments. Small observations that Paisley brushed off as insecurity. When Austin texted late at night, Zachary would sigh heavily and ask what Austin needed now. When Austin called and Paisley's face lit up with excitement, Zachary noticed. He always noticed. Paisley found these observations childish and controlling. She'd roll her eyes and change the subject, refusing to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, her husband was seeing something she didn't want to admit. Then came the conversation that changed everything. 2 weeks before the beach trip, they sat down for dinner. Normal evening, normal conversation. Until Zachary said 7 words that detonated their marriage. "I don't think you should go this year." Paisley laughed. She genuinely thought he was joking. When she realized he was dead serious, shock turned to anger. Zachary explained his discomfort with the dynamic between her and Austin. He used the word inappropriate. And that word made Paisley's blood boil. She'd never cheated, not once in 4 years. How dare he imply otherwise? The argument escalated quickly. But then Zachary revealed something that made Paisley's stomach drop. He'd gone through her phone while she was in the shower. He'd read her text messages with Austin. Now, there was nothing explicitly wrong in those messages. No sexting, no confessions of desire. Just inside jokes, casual banter, and trip planning. But one message stood out to Zachary like a neon sign. Austin had written, "Can't wait to see you in that new swimsuit." It was about a bikini Paisley had shared in their group chat. Everyone had seen it. It was innocent. But the way Austin phrased it, the way he singled her out, bothered Zachary deeply. And that's when Zachary issued his ultimatum. "If you go on this trip with him, it's a deal breaker for me." A deal breaker. After 4 years of marriage, he was willing to end everything over 3 days at the beach. Paisley sat there, stunned and furious. For about 5 minutes, she considered staying home. But the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Who was he to test her like this? To force her to choose? She'd always been independent. It was one of the qualities Zachary said he loved about her when they first met. Now suddenly it was a problem? So she made her decision. She packed her bags, told him she was going, and that they'd discuss his trust issues when she returned. Zachary barely looked at her as she left. He sat on the couch staring at his phone, as if she'd already disappeared from his life. It hurt more than Paisley wanted to admit. But she pushed that pain down, buried it under stubbornness and pride. She told herself he'd cool off. He'd realize how ridiculous he was being. She'd come home, they'd talk, and everything would go back to normal. She had no idea she was driving toward the end of her marriage. The drive to Myrtle Beach should have been relaxing. Ocean air, freedom, escape. But Paisley couldn't stop checking her phone. Nothing from Zachary. No text asking if she arrived safely. No call to check in. Just silence. She told herself she was glad. No drama. But the silence stung more than she expected. When she arrived at the beach house, Austin was waiting on the porch, beer in hand and a warm smile on his face. He hugged her tightly and whispered, "Proud of you for coming." Something about those words, the way he said them, made something flutter in Paisley's chest, a feeling she quickly pushed aside. The house was exactly as she remembered, slightly run down but charming, 6 bedrooms, ocean views, and a massive deck perfect for lazy afternoons. But when she walked inside, her friend Tiffany gave her a look, a knowing, concerned look. "So, Zachary was okay with you coming?" Tiffany asked carefully. Paisley rolled her eyes. "He'll get over it." Tiffany didn't look convinced. That first night, they built a bonfire on the beach. Someone mentioned Zachary's absence, and Paisley found herself getting defensive, her voice louder than necessary. "He doesn't own me," she insisted. "We're not joined at the hip." Austin nodded in agreement, adding, "Paisley's always been independent. That's what makes her Paisley." Those words made her feel seen in a way Zachary hadn't made her feel in months, maybe longer. The drinks kept flowing, and with each one, Paisley found herself sitting closer to Austin. Nothing inappropriate, she told herself. Just laughing at his jokes, letting her hand rest on his arm when he said something funny. Old habits from college. Around midnight, Austin suggested a quick swim. The others had gone back to the house, but the moonlit water looked irresistible. So they went in, fully clothed, laughing like teenagers. The water was freezing but exhilarating. They splashed around, free and careless, and for those few minutes, Paisley forgot about the tension waiting for her at home. Back at the house, she checked her phone one more time. Still nothing from Zachary. So she opened social media and posted a quote. "Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who try to clip your wings." She added a beach sunset photo and watched the reactions roll in. The next day, everything shifted. They spent the morning on the beach, and Paisley wore that new bikini, the one Austin had commented on. It was more revealing than her usual style, but she felt bold, defiant even. Everyone was taking photos, capturing memories. Austin suggested one of just the two of them. He wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. His hand settled lower than it should have, resting just above her hip in a way that felt possessive. The camera clicked. And in that moment, something changed between them. An unspoken acknowledgement of tension that had always been there, lurking beneath the surface of friendship. Later that afternoon, after too many margaritas at a beachside bar, Paisley and Austin found themselves alone on the deck of the beach house. The conversation turned personal. Austin mentioned he'd always wondered what would have happened if they'd given their relationship a real chance back in college. Paisley should have redirected, should have laughed it off or changed the subject. Instead, she admitted she'd wondered the same thing. One thing led to another. They ended up in his room, and while they didn't have sex, Paisley drew that line firmly in her mind. What they did absolutely crossed boundaries. She justified it immediately. It wasn't really cheating if they didn't go all the way, right? It was just a physical moment, fueled by alcohol and emotion. A technical loophole that let her sleep that night without facing what she'd actually done. But that night, feeling reckless and wanting to hurt Zachary the way his ultimatum had hurt her, Paisley made a choice that would seal her fate. She posted the bikini photo, the one with Austin's arm around her, his hand positioned intimately on her body. The caption read, "Making memories with the people who truly matter. Beach vibes and best friends." She turned off her phone immediately, not wanting to see Zachary's reaction. Part of her knew she'd crossed a line, but a bigger part felt vindicated. Powerful, even. He wanted to control her? Well, here was her response. The aftermath. The drive home felt endless. When Paisley finally turned her phone back on Sunday morning, she was flooded with notifications, comments on the photo, messages from mutual friends, but nothing from Zachary. The silence was deafening. Tiffany had pulled her aside before she left the beach house. "I hope that post was worth it," she'd said quietly. Those words echoed in Paisley's mind the entire drive home. When she pulled into the driveway, something felt wrong. Zachary's car was there, but the house felt empty, hollow. She walked inside, calling his name. No response. Then she saw it. His closet, half empty, dresser drawers pulled open, only her belongings remaining. Panic set in as she ran through the house, room to room, looking for some explanation. In the kitchen, she found a note. "Staying at Jake's. We need to talk, but not tonight." She called him immediately. He sent her to voicemail. She texted frantically. "Are you serious right now? You're moving out because of a photo?" Then she sat on the kitchen floor and cried until her body ached. Zachary came over the next day. Paisley had barely slept, rehearsing arguments in her head. She was ready to defend herself, to explain, to make him understand. But the man who walked through the door wasn't the Zachary she expected. He was calm, cold. He sat at the kitchen table like a stranger. "So you're back," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "How was your trip with Austin?" "Don't do that," Paisley snapped. "Don't act like I committed some major crime. You're the one who gave me an ultimatum." Zachary pulled out his phone and showed her the photo. Her photo. "This isn't just a beach picture, Paisley. This is you deliberately trying to hurt me, to humiliate me." He scrolled through the comments. Friends asking where he was, Austin responding with a winking emoji, people they barely knew weighing in on their marriage. "You made our private problems public," Zachary said. "You wanted everyone to see you defying me." "You went through my phone," Paisley countered. "You tried to control who I could see and where I could go." "I asked you not to go on one trip," Zachary replied, his voice strained with exhaustion. "One trip with a guy who clearly wants more than friendship. After finding messages that made me uncomfortable, that's all." He rubbed his eyes. "But this isn't even about Austin anymore." "Then what is it about?" Paisley demanded. "It's about respect, Paisley. It's about you constantly testing how much I'll tolerate. The innocent flirting with other men when we're out together. The way you shut me out of your friend group. How you always play the victim when we fight." He looked at her with such profound disappointment that it took her breath away. "I saw the beach photo and I know what happened with Austin." Paisley's blood ran cold. Nothing happened. The lie came automatically, instinctively. "Don't." Zachary held up his hand. "Katie saw you coming out of his room at 2 a.m. She texted me because she was worried about you." Paisley felt cornered, exposed. "We didn't have sex," she insisted. "That's not cheating." Zachary stared at her in disbelief. "Do you actually believe that? That anything short of intercourse is acceptable with another man?" "It's not like I planned it," Paisley said defensively. "And maybe if you hadn't been so controlling, I wouldn't have—" "Stop!" His voice was quiet but firm. "No more making this my fault." He stood to leave. "I'm staying at Jake's for now. I need space to think." "You're overreacting," Paisley said, panic rising in her chest. "This wasn't how this was supposed to go. I came back, didn't I? I'm here." "Physically, maybe," Zachary said. "But you haven't been present in this marriage for a long time, Paisley. And honestly, neither have I. That's on both of us." When he walked out, Paisley had a terrible realization. What she thought was a game of chicken, who would back down first, was actually the end of something she wasn't ready to lose. The fallout. The days following Zachary's departure were brutal. Paisley made the mistake of checking social media, where that bikini picture had taken on a life of its own. Mutual. Friends were leaving supportive comments for Zachary. Even her own cousin wrote, "Sending you strength, Z," with a heart emoji. Like Paisley was the villain. She called her mother in tears, giving her version of events. Zachary's controlling behavior. The unfair ultimatum. How she just wanted a weekend with friends. Her mother was sympathetic at first, promising to talk to Zachary. "He's always been so reasonable," she said. "I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding." But 3 days later, after speaking with Zachary, her mother's tone completely changed. "You did what with Austin?" she demanded. "Paisley Leanne, I raised you better than that." She lectured about marriage vows and respect. When Paisley tried to explain her technical loophole about not actually having sex, her mother practically hung up on her. Even her own mother was taking Zachary's side. Then came the encounter with Austin's girlfriend, Megan. She couldn't attend the beach trip because of work, and Paisley hadn't seen her since returning home. They ran into each other at the grocery store. "Hey, Paisley," Megan said, her smile cold and sharp. "How was the beach? Austin told me you all had quite the weekend." Paisley's stomach dropped. "It was fun, same as always." Megan studied her. "You know, Austin told me everything about your little after-hours activities." She leaned in closer. "And just so you know, he laughed about it later. Said you seemed to think it meant something, that it was just Paisley being Paisley." Paisley felt like she'd been slapped. "He's my friend," she said weakly. "No, honey, he's my boyfriend who you were inappropriate with. And you're a married woman who should know better." Megan pushed her cart past. "Or I guess we're a married woman. I hear Zachary's filing papers." "Filing papers?" Paisley's heart raced. That had to be a lie, just Megan trying to hurt her. But when she got home, she checked Zachary's browser history on their shared laptop. There it was, a consultation with a divorce attorney scheduled for the following day. The worst came when Tiffany finally told Paisley what everyone was saying behind her back. They met for coffee, and Paisley could tell her friend was uncomfortable. "Just spit it out," Paisley said. Tiffany sighed. "Look, what you did on the trip wasn't okay. And I don't just mean the Austin thing. That photo was deliberately hurtful." "Zachary tried to control me," Paisley insisted. "Did he, though?" Tiffany looked skeptical. "Because from where everyone else stands, he set a boundary in your marriage that you bulldozed over, and then you humiliated him publicly." "It was just a beach photo," Paisley protested, "with a guy you used to date, which, by the way, I can't believe you never told Zachary about, with his hand on your body and a caption about people who truly matter, right after your husband asked you not to go. It looked calculated." Paisley sat speechless. "And then there's the Austin situation," Tiffany continued. "Katie told everyone what she saw, and now Austin's telling guys at the bar it wasn't even the first time." "He's lying," Paisley said, her blood running cold. "That never happened before." Tiffany gave her a long look. "Maybe. But here's the thing. People believe him because of how you've acted. All the flirty comments, the inside jokes, the way you prioritize him over your own husband." "He's my best friend," Paisley said weakly. "No, I'm your best friend," Tiffany said firmly. "And as your best friend, I need to tell you that you messed up big time, and I don't know if you can fix it." Driving home, Paisley had to face a truth she'd been avoiding. People weren't taking Zachary's side because they liked him better. They were taking his side because in this situation, she was actually the one who'd done wrong. And that was a devastating realization. After a week of silence, Paisley decided she needed to fix things. She wasn't ready to admit she was completely wrong. The ultimatum was still controlling in her mind, but she could acknowledge she'd taken things too far. She texted Zachary, asking to meet for dinner. To her surprise, he agreed. Paisley spent hours getting ready. She chose an outfit she knew he loved, the one from their first anniversary. She made reservations at the Italian restaurant where they'd had their rehearsal dinner. She was going to remind him of their history, of what they'd built together. She practiced her apology in the mirror, not too submissive, but sorry enough. When Zachary walked in, her heart ached. He looked handsome but tired, with shadows under his eyes. He sat down without kissing her hello, and she knew this wouldn't be easy. "I'm glad you wanted to talk," Paisley began. "I've missed you." He nodded but said nothing. "I want to apologize," she continued, reaching for his hand across the table. He let her take it, but his fingers remained limp in hers, unresponsive. Things got out of hand at the beach. The photo was thoughtless. "And what happened with Austin?" he asked directly. Paisley faltered. "That was a mistake. I'd been drinking, and I was upset about our fight. It didn't mean anything." "So you admit it happened?" His voice was steady, but she could see the pain in his eyes. "Yes, but it wasn't. We didn't actually—" She stumbled over her words. "It wasn't full-on cheating." Zachary pulled his hand away. "Paisley, if I did exactly what you did with a female friend, would you consider it cheating?" The question caught her completely off guard. She wanted to say no, to be consistent, but they both knew she'd be furious if the situation were reversed. Instead of answering honestly, she dodged. "This isn't about hypotheticals. This is about us. Our marriage." "The marriage you were willing to risk over a beach trip?" Zachary asked. "Or the one you humiliated publicly?" "You're the one who gave me an ultimatum," Paisley shot back, her plan for calm reconciliation already derailing. "You backed me into a corner. I asked you not to go on one trip because I was uncomfortable with your relationship with Austin," Zachary said, exhaustion in his voice. "One trip. And instead of considering why I might feel that way, you turned it into this massive power struggle. Because you were trying to control me." "Was I?" He looked genuinely confused. "Or was I asking for respect? For my feelings to matter as much as Austin's?" That hit a nerve because deep down, Paisley knew there was truth to it. She'd always prioritized Austin's feelings, his needs, his place in her life. "I just want us to move forward," Paisley said, softening her tone. She placed her hand on his thigh under the table, sliding it upward suggestively. "I miss you. I miss us." Zachary removed her hand firmly. "Sex isn't going to fix this, Paisley. It never has, even though you've tried to use it that way before." She felt exposed, like he could see through all her strategies. "Then what do you want from me?" she asked, frustration rising. "Accountability," he said simply. "Real understanding of why what you did was harmful. Not just the trip, but the pattern of disrespect." "I said I was sorry." "You're sorry for getting caught," he replied, "not for the actions themselves." The dinner deteriorated from there. Paisley alternated between defensive arguments and tearful pleas. At one point, desperate, she said, "If you leave me over this, I don't know what I'll do to myself." It was a manipulation tactic she'd used before when cornered, hinting at self-harm to make him back down. This time, Zachary didn't take the bait. "Don't do that," he said firmly. "That's emotional manipulation, and we both know it." He placed money on the table for the bill. "I've been talking to a therapist. She's helping me see patterns I've been enabling." "So some stranger is telling you to divorce me?" Paisley asked bitterly. "No," Zachary said, standing up. "She's helping me see that I deserve a relationship based on mutual respect." He paused at the door. "I filed the separation papers yesterday, Paisley. My lawyer will be in touch." Paisley sat in that restaurant long after he left, the other diners becoming a blur around her. How had it come to this? How could one weekend, one photo, one mistake end 4 years of marriage? But deep down, in the quiet honesty of that empty restaurant booth, she knew it wasn't just one weekend. It was 100 small choices where she'd put her wants above their marriage. 100 moments where she'd chosen Austin's friendship over Zachary's comfort. 100 times she'd tested boundaries just to prove she could. So what's the lesson here? Paisley's story isn't just about a beach trip or a provocative photo. It's about something much deeper. It's about how we can be so focused on defending our independence that we forget about partnership. How we can be so busy proving we're right that we don't notice we're destroying something precious. It's about how the person we think is controlling us might actually just be asking for basic respect. And how sometimes, when we think we're standing our ground, we're actually burning down our own home. Paisley wanted to be seen as strong and independent. But real strength isn't about refusing to compromise. It's about knowing when your pride is costing you more than it's worth. Real independence isn't about doing whatever you want regardless of consequences. It's about making conscious choices and owning the outcomes. And sometimes the person trying to set boundaries isn't trying to control you. They're trying to save what you're destroying. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about boundaries in your own relationships, or if you simply appreciate real, honest storytelling about difficult topics, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's confusing independence with disrespect, someone who's testing boundaries in their own relationship. And subscribe to Mrs. Emma so you never miss stories like this. Stories about real mistakes, hard lessons, and the messy truth about relationships. Because the best stories aren't the ones with happy endings. They're the ones that teach us something we needed to learn. I'm Emma, and I'll see you in the next story.